Diplomatic Officer James Harrison hadn't expected anything unusual during his routine inspection of Outpost Sigma 7. The aging space station orbited a forgotten corner of the Perseus Arm, its darkened corridors testament to centuries of neglect. His footsteps echoed through the metal halls as his handheld scanner swept methodically over sealed doorways, checking for structural integrity and signs of life. Section 47B appears stable, he reported into his comm unit, his deep voice bouncing off the cold walls. Moving to final quadrant. The last section was different. His scanner detected faint energy readings emanating from behind a massive door marked with symbols he'd never seen before. The pattern seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal, defying the dust that coated everything else in this sector. Central, I'm picking up anomalous readings, he transmitted, adjusting his scanner's settings. Request permission to investigate. Granted, Officer Harrison. Proceed with caution. The door responded to his universal access key, sliding open with a hiss that seemed almost alive. The chamber beyond took his breath away. Suspended in a column of shimmering light floated what appeared to be a woman, but her features marked her as distinctly non-human. Her skin held an opalescent quality, shifting between deep purple and midnight blue. Long hair the color of starlight drifted around her as if underwater. Harrison approached carefully, his scanner providing increasingly strange readings. The stasis field's energy signature matched no known technology in the diplomatic database. As he drew closer, he noticed the woman's face bore an expression of peace, but her fingers were curled as if reaching for something in her eternal sleep. Central, are you seeing this? He whispered, activating his visual feed. Affirmative. Archives suggest this may be Princess Zaraven of the Stellaris Empire. She vanished 300 years ago during the Succession Wars. Approach with extreme caution. Harrison's heart raced. The Stellaris Empire had been the greatest civilization in the galaxy before its mysterious collapse. Their technology still surpassed anything currently known. And here, in this abandoned outpost, lay one of their lost rulers. As he studied the stasis field's control panel, his fingers brushed against a crystal interface. The chamber immediately hummed to life, ancient systems awakening. The princess's eyes snapped open, revealing irises that contained what looked like swirling galaxies. Stand back. Central commanded, but it was too late. The stasis field collapsed, and Princess Zaraven fell forward. Harrison caught her instinctively, surprised by how warm she felt despite centuries in suspension. Her eyes focused on his face with an intensity that made his spine tingle. You, she breathed, her voice carrying harmonics that seemed to resonate with something deep in his DNA. You bear the mark. Before Harrison could ask what she meant, alarms began blaring throughout the station. The princess gripped his arms, her strength surprising for someone who just awakened from centuries of sleep. They're coming, she said urgently. The ones who imprisoned me. Your species was meant to find me, but not yet. We're too early. Who's coming? Harrison helped her stand, noting how quickly she seemed to be regaining her strength. The Void Wardens. They've watched this station for centuries, waiting. We must go now. As if to emphasize her point, an explosion rocked the station. Through the chamber's viewing portal, Harrison saw several ships dropping out of hyperspace, their designs as alien as the princess herself. Central, requesting immediate extraction, he called into his comm, Priority 1 diplomatic emergency. Negative, Officer Harrison. Unknown vessels are blocking all approach vectors. The princess touched the crystal at her throat, and her stasis suit transformed into what appeared to be battle armor. Your people trust in protocols and diplomacy, she said, a slight smile playing across her luminescent features. Mine believed in preparation. There's a hidden ship bay 3 levels below us. If we reach it, I can get us to safety. Harrison's diplomatic training warred with his instincts. Everything about this situation violated standard procedures, but something about the princess's presence felt undeniably right. The way she looked at him suggested she knew far more about why they'd met than she was revealing. Another explosion rocked the station, closer this time. Harrison made his decision. "Lead the way, Your Highness." "Zara," she corrected, her armor illuminating the darkened corridor as they ran. "After all, you've already broken several galactic laws by waking me. We might as well be on a first-name basis." As they raced through the station's abandoned halls, Harrison couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than a chance encounter. The princess moved with purpose, as if she'd been waiting for precisely this moment. And what had she meant about him bearing a mark? The sounds of battle grew closer, and Harrison realized that their discovery had just sparked what might become the biggest diplomatic crisis in human history. Yet as he followed the princess's glowing form through the darkness, he couldn't bring himself to regret it. The adventure that would reshape the galaxy had begun. The hidden ship bay was a cathedral of shadows, illuminated only by Zara's bioluminescent armor and the emergency lights of Harrison's diplomatic suit. Ancient vessels loomed above them, their designs unlike anything in human records. Zara moved purposefully toward one that seemed to pulse with a faint inner light. "The Star Weaver," she said, touching its hull. The ship responded immediately, a hatch materializing from what had appeared to be solid metal. "My personal vessel. They never found it." Harrison's diplomatic training kicked in as he followed her aboard. "Those ships up there, the Void Wardens, who are they exactly?" The ship's interior lit up as they entered, surfaces coming alive with flowing patterns similar to those on Zara's armor. She moved to what was clearly a control center, her fingers dancing over crystalline interfaces. They were meant to be protectors, she explained as the ship hummed to life around them. An order created to safeguard the Empire's greatest secrets. But power corrupts, even those sworn to protect it. The deck vibrated beneath their feet as ancient engines awakened. Through the ship's viewing panels, Harrison saw more explosive flashes above as the station came under heavy attack. "Your mark," Zara continued, nodding toward Harrison's chest. "Look." Harrison glanced down and was startled to see a faint pattern glowing through his diplomatic suit, a complex spiral of light centered over his heart. "What in the world?" "Not of this world," Zara corrected, her galaxy eyes intense. "That pattern is written into your genetic code, a key my people left within the human genome thousands of years ago. We knew we'd need allies who couldn't be corrupted by the same forces that tore our empire apart." The ship lifted smoothly from its berth as debris began raining down around them. Harrison gripped a support rail, his mind reeling from the implications of her words. "You're saying humans were engineered?" "Guided," she corrected. "Protected. Your natural evolution was supplemented with certain possibilities. The ability to awaken me was just one of them." A massive explosion rocked the station above them. The Star Weaver's screens showed multiple Void Warden vessels moving to surround the station. Their angular black ships seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "They're trying to trap us," Harrison observed, his military training before joining the diplomatic corps coming in handy. Zara's lips curved in a slight smile. "They don't know what they're dealing with." "Neither did I, until now." She reached out and took his hand, and Harrison felt an immediate surge of energy course through him. The spiral pattern on his chest glowed brighter. "The resonance is stronger than I expected," she said softly. "You're not just any key, James Harrison. You're the one we spent millennia waiting for." Before he could process that, the ship's sensors blared a warning. The Void Warden ships were powering up their main weapons. "Hold on," Zara commanded, her hand still gripping his. "This might feel strange." The Star Weaver's engines pulsed, and reality seemed to bend around them. Harrison watched in amazement as the ship's hull became transparent, then translucent, then seemed to phase out of normal space entirely. The Void Warden vessels fired, but their energy beams passed harmlessly through the space where the Star Weaver had been. "Phase shifting," Zara explained, clearly enjoying his amazement. "One of many technologies my people developed." The Void Wardens have some of our secrets, but not all of them. They accelerated away from the station, their half-phased state allowing them to pass straight through debris and enemy vessels alike. Harrison felt oddly disconnected from reality, as if he were simultaneously here and somewhere else entirely. The mark responds to the phase drive, Zara noted, watching him closely. Another sign. Tell me, what do you know of the stellar concordat? The what? Harrison was still trying to adjust to the sensation of being partially out of phase with normal space. Exactly. History has been adjusted. The Void Wardens didn't just imprison me, they systematically erased much of our true history. The stellar concordat was an alliance between my people and the early human civilizations. We shared knowledge, culture, dreams. Until the Wardens decided humanity wasn't ready. A sensor alert drew their attention. Despite their phase-shifted state, several Void Warden ships were somehow maintaining pursuit. That's impossible, Harrison said. If we're out of phase. They've adapted some of our technology, Zara's expression hardened. But they still don't understand its true source. She released his hand and moved to another control panel. We need to get to the Nexus. It's the only place we'll be safe long enough for me to explain everything. The Nexus? A hidden outpost where the last traces of the Concordat still exist. The proof of what humanity once was, and what they can be again. She glanced at him, her galaxy eyes swirling with emotion. What we can be together. The ship shuddered as a partial hit from their pursuers managed to clip their phase field. Zara's hands flew over the controls, making adjustments. First, she said grimly, we need to survive long enough to get there. I hope you're ready to help make history, James Harrison. Or perhaps I should say, ready to rediscover it. The Starweaver dove into a nearby nebula, its phase field leaving a trail of distorted space behind them. And somewhere in the back of his mind, Harrison felt something awakening, genetic memories that had waited countless generations to be remembered. The nebula engulfed the Starweaver in swirling clouds of purple and blue gas, eerily similar to the colors of Zara's skin. Harrison watched in fascination as the ship's phase field interacted with the cosmic clouds, creating patterns that seemed to mirror the mark glowing on his chest. The connection grows stronger, Zara observed, her voice carrying an almost musical quality in the ship's resonant chamber. The nebula is accelerating the awakening of your dormant genetic memories. Harrison nodded, unable to deny the strange sensations flooding his mind. Images flickered through his consciousness, ancient cities that bridged the gaps between stars, vessels that sailed on solar winds, and beings of light and shadow working together to forge something greater than themselves. The stellar concordat, he whispered, the words feeling both foreign and familiar on his tongue. We built wonders together. Until fear destroyed what unity had built, Zara confirmed sadly. A proximity alert interrupted her words as 3 Void Warden ships emerged from the nebula's gases behind them. They're tracking the resonance between us, she explained, her hands dancing over the controls. The stronger our connection grows, the easier we are to follow. The Starweaver dove deeper into the nebula, its phase field creating eddies in the cosmic gases. Harrison found himself moving to the co-pilot station, his hands instinctively finding their place on the crystalline controls. I know how to fly this, he realized with surprise. Your genetic memory is awakening faster than I expected, Zara said, shooting him a pleased glance. We'll need both of us to make it through what's coming. As if on cue, energy beams from the pursuing ships carved through the nebula gases around them. The Starweaver responded to their combined control, weaving through the natural obstacle course of condensed gas clouds and protostellar matter. There's something else here, Harrison said suddenly, his awakening senses detecting a massive presence ahead. Something ancient. Zara's galaxy eyes widened. The Crucible. I didn't think any still existed. She adjusted their course slightly, heading toward whatever Harrison had sensed. The Void Wardens wouldn't dare follow us in there. The nebula parted before them, revealing a massive structure that defied conventional physics. It appeared to be a sphere of interconnected rings, each rotating in a different dimension. As they approached, Harrison felt the mark on his chest pulse in rhythm with the structure's energy field. "What is it?" "A shipyard of the Ancient Ones," Zara explained, guiding them toward an opening that seemed to materialize just for their ship. "The beings who taught both our peoples to reach for the stars. The Void Wardens fear these places, they can't control the technology here." The Starweaver passed through the outer rings, and Harrison gasped as reality seemed to shift around them. The interior of the Crucible was a vast space filled with suspended platforms and floating docks. Ancient ships in various states of construction or repair hung in the void, their designs challenging his understanding of what was possible. "Welcome to the truth they tried to erase," Zara said softly. "This is what humanity and the Stellaris achieved together, before the Wardens decided power was more important than progress." The pursuing ships halted at the outer rings, unwilling to follow them into the Crucible. Harrison felt a surge of triumph, but Zara's expression remained concerned. "They'll summon reinforcements," she said, guiding their ship toward one of the floating docks. "We have perhaps an hour before they gather enough forces to risk entering the Crucible. We need to find what we came for and be gone before then." "And what exactly did we come for?" Harrison asked, though part of him already knew the answer. Zara touched the crystal at her throat, and her armor shifted, revealing an identical spiral pattern to his own mark. "The key you carry and the one I bear, they're two halves of something greater. Something the Wardens tried to ensure would never be whole again." The Starweaver settled onto a dock that looked as pristine as the day it was created, despite the centuries of abandonment. As they prepared to disembark, Harrison felt the genetic memories surge stronger, filling his mind with knowledge of this place and its purpose. "The Nexus Key," he said, the words coming from somewhere deep in his ancestral memory. "We're here to forge it." "Yes," Zara confirmed, taking his hand. The contact sent energy spiraling between their marks, illuminating the ancient dock around them. "And with it, we'll do more than just escape the Wardens. We'll remind both our peoples of what they once were, and what they can be again." Together, they stepped onto the dock, their combined energy causing long-dormant systems to flicker to life around them. Above, through the Crucible's translucent rings, they could see more Void Warden ships arriving, gathering like storm clouds on the horizon. The race to reclaim their shared destiny had begun, and time was running out. The interior of the Crucible was a maze of crystalline pathways and floating platforms, each thrumming with ancient power. Harrison and Zara moved swiftly through the structure, their matching spiral marks leaving trails of light in their wake. Each step seemed to awaken more of the genetic memories buried in Harrison's DNA. "The forging chamber should be ahead," he said, the knowledge flowing naturally now. "Through the Hall of Echoes." Zara glanced at him with approval. "Your awakening is proceeding faster than I hoped. The Crucible's energy field is accelerating the process." They entered a vast chamber whose walls seemed to be made of living light. As they walked, images flickered around them, moments from the shared history of their peoples. Harrison saw great cities that spanned planets, ships that could sail through stars, and ceremonies that bound their civilizations together. The Void Wardens didn't just imprison you, he realized, watching the images dance. They tried to erase an entire future, the future we were building together. "Fear of losing control makes beings do terrible things," Zara replied, her galaxy eyes reflecting the shifting lights. "They saw our peoples growing closer, saw the potential of what we could become, and it terrified them." A distant boom echoed through the structure. The Void Wardens were beginning their assault on the Crucible's outer rings. "They're using harmonic resonators," Zara observed grimly. "Trying to crack the Crucible's quantum shell. We have less time than I thought." They reached the center of the Hall of Echoes, where a single platform floated in a void of swirling energy. At its center stood a crystalline altar that seemed to bend light around itself. "The Forge of Unity," Harrison whispered, more memories surfacing. This is where the first bonds between our peoples were sealed. Zara stepped onto the platform, drawing him with her. And where we'll reforge what was broken. She placed her hand on one side of the altar, her mark blazing bright. Together. Harrison placed his hand on the opposite side. The moment their energy patterns connected through the altar, the entire chamber transformed. The swirling void around them erupted with light, forming into a vast holographic map of the galaxy. But it was unlike any map Harrison had ever seen. It showed not just the physical space, but the connections between worlds, the flows of energy and consciousness that bound all things together. The Nexus, Zara breathed. The true one, not the shadow of it I spoke of before. This is what the Wardens could never understand. The galaxy itself is alive, conscious, connected. Our peoples were meant to be its caretakers, not its conquerors. The altar began to pulse, drawing energy from their marks. Harrison felt a sensation like liquid fire flowing through his veins, but it wasn't painful. It felt right, as if something long dormant was finally awakening. Look, he said, pointing to patterns forming in the galactic map. There are others like us. Hidden, sleeping, waiting. Zara nodded. Scattered throughout both our civilizations. The Wardens couldn't find them all. Once we complete the forging of the Nexus key, it will send out a call that will awaken them. Another explosion rocked the crucible, closer this time. The Void Wardens were breaking through. The altar's crystal structure began to shift and flow, responding to their combined energy. From its center, a new form was taking shape, a double helix of light that twisted up between their outstretched hands. The key is nearly complete, Zara said, her voice tight with concentration. But the final step requires something more than just energy. It requires trust, Harrison finished, understanding flowing through him with the genetic memories. Complete trust, between both our peoples. That's why it needs both of us. Their eyes met across the altar, and in that moment, Harrison saw everything. The weight of her centuries of imprisonment, the hope she'd carried through dark years, and something else, something new and unplanned that was growing between them. The crucible shuddered as another barrage hit it. Warning lights flashed across the chamber as the quantum shell began to fail. They had minutes at most. Do you trust me, James Harrison? Zara asked, her galaxy eyes swirling with intensity. The question was deeper than it seemed. This wasn't just about them, it was about their peoples, their shared destiny, and the future they could forge together. Harrison felt the weight of generations in his answer. Yes, he said simply, and meant it with every awakened cell in his being. Zara's smile was like starlight. Then let's rewrite history. Together, they reached for the floating key, their fingers intertwining around its crystalline form. The moment they touched it, the universe itself seemed to hold its breath. And then everything changed. The universe transformed around them as the Nexus key blazed to life in their joined hands. Waves of energy pulsed outward through the crucible, through space itself, carrying with them an awakening that had waited centuries to begin. The Void Wardens' attack faltered as their ships were caught in the rippling waves of power. Harrison and Zara stood at the heart of the storm, their spiral marks now burning so bright they illuminated the entire chamber. Through their connected hands and the key between them, Harrison could feel everything, the sweep of galaxies, the dance of stars, and most incredibly, the countless minds now awakening to their true heritage. They're responding, Zara breathed, her voice filled with wonder. Everywhere, in both our civilizations, the sleepers are waking up. Through the key's connection, Harrison saw them, humans and Stellaris across the galaxy, their own spiral marks beginning to glow as ancient memories stirred to life. Diplomats, scientists, artists, warriors, people in all walks of life who carried the hidden legacy of two peoples meant to evolve together. The Void Wardens' ships pressed their attack with renewed desperation, but it was too late. The Crucible's quantum shell, rather than breaking under their assault, was transforming, expanding, drawing power from the awakening minds across the galaxy. They fear this moment, Harrison realized, understanding flowing through him. Not because of what we might do to them, but because of what it means. Their control is ending. Not with violence, Zara agreed, her galaxy eyes meeting his. But with remembrance. With unity. The key pulsed again, and suddenly they weren't just in the crucible anymore. Their consciousness expanded, connected to every awakened mind across space. Through this vast network of awareness, Harrison felt the truth that the Wardens had tried so hard to suppress. Humanity and the Stellaris weren't just allies in the past, they were two branches of the same cosmic tree, meant to grow together toward a shared destiny. The Void Wardens' ships began to power down as their own crews awakened, the genetic heritage they didn't know they carried responding to the key's call. Centuries of conditioning and control dissolved in the face of remembered truth. It's not about claiming an empire, Zara said softly, understanding flowing between them. It never was. It's about becoming what we were always meant to be, together. The key's light began to fade, its work complete, but the connection it had forged remained. Across the galaxy, awakened humans and Stellaris were finding each other, remembering their shared purpose. The crucible hummed with renewed energy as ancient systems came fully online, ready to serve their restored purpose. Harrison turned to Zara, still holding her hand even though the key had dissolved into pure energy. What happens now? Her smile held both wisdom and warmth. Now we rebuild. Not an empire, but a concordat. A true union of our peoples, working together as equals. She squeezed his hand gently. The Wardens tried to control the future by erasing the past, but they forgot something important. What's that? The future isn't written in stone or crystal, she said, her free hand touching his chest where the spiral mark still glowed. It's written in hearts that trust, in minds that dream, and in souls brave enough to reach across the stars to find each other. Through the crucible's transparent walls, they could see ships appearing from hyperspace, vessels from both their civilizations, drawn by the awakening. But these weren't coming to fight. They were arriving to remember, to rebuild, to fulfill the destiny that had been interrupted 3 centuries ago. Your diplomatic skills are going to be more valuable than ever, Zara noted with a hint of amusement. We have a lot of explaining to do. Harrison laughed, the sound echoing through the ancient chamber. I think my job description just expanded significantly. His expression softened as he looked at her. But I can't think of anyone I'd rather face it with. A human diplomat and a Stellaris princess, she mused, her galaxy eyes twinkling. The Wardens tried to prevent our peoples from coming together, and instead, they created the perfect circumstances for it to happen. Above them, through the quantum shell, more ships were arriving, human vessels, Stellaris ships awakened from ancient docks, even former Warden craft now crewed by those who had remembered their true purpose. The galaxy was changing, not through force or conquest, but through remembrance and choice. The crucible would become their center, a place where both civilizations could work together to rebuild what was lost and forge something new. The genetic memories awakened by the key would guide them, but not control them. The future would be what they chose to make it, together. Ready to help reshape the galaxy? Zara asked, leading him toward the platform where the Star Weaver waited. Harrison smiled, feeling the weight of both history and possibility in this moment. With you? Always. As they walked, their spiral marks pulsed in unison, leaving trails of light that merged and danced together. It was a small thing, perhaps, but it represented everything the Void Wardens had feared and everything the Ancient Ones had hoped for, 2 peoples choosing to face the future as one. The awakening had only begun.